And we're live. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Happy Sunday.
Welcome, everyone.
Yes.
Both of you. No, one of you left.
You scared them off. Look what you did.
Derek.
Derek, what's up? Thanks for coming. Oh, here we go. We're starting to get people in. David, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hey.
Rodney, hello. Thanks for coming. Good evening to you. Oh, Michael's here.
Michael here. Drew is here. We're all good.
Yeah.
Hey.
We have a lot to talk about. It was really hard to pick a main attraction for this week because there were like 4 things that would have been a main attraction if they had happened by themselves. Oh, hello. We have Kat from Early Night Live in the chat. What's up?
Hi.
Genevieve.
Hello, Angel.
Sylvia, hello. John, Michael is everywhere. It's that Buzz Lightyear meme. Which, if I had that handy, I would pop that up on the screen. Michael everywhere. All right, we are at 50.
Ooh.
We were getting close to 60, and then I was going to say start, but okay.
Hovering around 50.
Yeah,
there must be something good on TV tonight.
Maybe. Everyone's watching Ryan the Last Dragon tonight.
Ah.
All right, in 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 77 of the Attractions Podcast. I'm Brittany.
And I'm Seth.
And we're here to talk to you about the latest and greatest in theme park news and more, as well as what's going on in our own lives. So, Seth, how have you been this week?
I've had a great week. No natural disasters here to speak of. No deaths or destruction. So that's always a positive thing. Mm-hmm. And attractions-wise, I've, of course, got to go to opening week of the Flower and Garden Festival over at EPCOT. We've come full circle now because the pandemic shut down the world right after the Flower and Garden Festival started. Mm-hmm. And now we've got the first taste of Flower and Garden Festival, Flower and Garden Festival Light. It's, without the concerts, it's not quite the same thing. But there was some really good food, especially for vegans. I think that the Korean barbecue short rib is maybe the best vegan dish that I've at a EPCOT festival. So
what's the base?
It's Impossible Burger.
Ooh.
Yeah, but with a really good Korean barbecue seasoning.
That sounds
good. Yeah, I would order it at a restaurant happily. And the other really cool thing was I got to go to Gatorland and watch them release 2 gators that were rescued up at Lake Michigan in the Chicago area.
Oh, wow.
One of them was actually found in the lake. His mouth had been taped shut. His belly was full of plastic. It was really sad. He almost died. And the other, apparently, I guess the cops found in a Chicago crack house and had been kept in a fish tank for 20 years. It's crazy. But so they went up to Chicago and drove these alligators back down to Florida in a van. And I went first thing one morning and watched them unload and get released into Gatorland. And they seemed really happy.
I can only imagine what that must have looked like on the road, in case they got pulled over. Oh, officer, is nothing.
How do you explain that one, right?
The snarling you hear, it's just the alligator.
So, quick editorial aside, your video has totally frozen on my end.
Oh, I see that.
I don't know if my video is still running to you. I can see my video.
Your video's fine. Let me jump out and jump back in.
Hi, everyone. Now that we're alone, we can all talk about Brittany. Isn't she great? Wait, she's back now.
Wait. My video, my camera's turned off.
I think your camera died. So, we will, I think we need to just find a photo. Oh, device is not connected. Okay. So if anyone just has a and
Hi.
she's back. That was exciting.
I have no idea what happened, but that little
Gremlins.
Gremlins,
Gremlins.
Gremlins. I'm blaming it
Oh,
on Horror Nights
yep. Well, you
and the
seem to be
Gators.
back, and we can just clip this whole thing out of the
Yes,
audio. Yeah,
fine.
no problem.
Um, I got
So,
a cool thing to talk about this week.
how was your week?
Well,
Segue, segue, segue.
segue away from the technical
Mm.
difficulties. My week was good. We had friends in town. I was working most of the time, so I didn't get to hang out very much, but I did get to see some of the filming locations of
Ooh.
movies shot around Austin, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Ooh.
and Death Proof. Uh,
Very cool.
yeah, so that was very neat.
Is there
I
like a website or something that has like a filming tour where like shows you where to find all these spots? Or
I'm sure, but the Texas Chainsaw gas station is not that far from here. Uh,
awesome.
and then Texas Chili Parlor and Guero's are in town. Guero's is on South Congress, which is like the shopping street of Austin.
Well, I know some people go there for like the music and the culture, but
Yeah,
I'm going there for the Texas Chainsaw gas station.
as you should. They have the van parked out front.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The house also exists. It's been moved. It's a restaurant now, but
I've seen pictures. Yeah,
yeah, we didn't get to go to that one. And then I watched the finale of WandaVision, which we'll get to.
of course.
Wrecked me.
Mm,
And then I got my hands on something yesterday that I have been trying to get a hold of for literal years. The screenplay for the canceled Bioshock film that Gore Verbinski was going to do.
I was just reading an article, an interview that he had done about why that got canceled. So you've actually got a copy of the screenplay?
I read it, I finished it, and I
Mm.
literally like sat staring off into the void after I finished it for like 10 minutes.
So, well, spoilers for like a 20-year-old game. He mentioned that interview that he somehow incorporated both endings, the good ending and the bad ending of the game, into one script.
Yes.
So, was that true?
Mm-hmm. It
How?
it's like a red herring kind of thing where
Ah,
the way that John Logan was the one who wrote the script. The way he incorporates all the like classic beats of the game is insane because like I've played that game so many times. Like it's one of my favorite video games ever.
do,
And
I mean, do they have the scene with the protagonist beating his father to death with a
golf
okay,
club, yes.
golf club? Okay, good, good,
Um,
good. So
even the
they
one
didn't make it PG.
Brian, it's Rapture only, just the plot
Yeah.
of the first game. But you go through all of that. Ryan dies and everything. Atlas is not also Frank Fontaine. It's just Atlas in the screenplay, which probably just makes it easier for viewers. But you get to this point where you survive, and Jack thinks like, oh, like whatever, this is it, it's over, and I can have a life now. And then it flips on you, and then he takes over Rapture, and it's the bad ending of the game where the splicers come topside, and then it
Okay.
ends. It's really bleak. The screenplay is extremely violent. Like there is a point where Jack is talking to a little sister, and she gets bludgeoned to death across the head with a croquet mallet.
Nice. Murdering small children, even when they're, psychotic and possessed, is
Yeah.
always good in a family film.
Yeah, but it's absolutely crazy. There are some fakes rolling around out there, but if you go to Birth Movies Death, rest in peace.
Ah.
One of the writers over there also got their hands on the script and basically runs through the entire plot if you want to check it out. But curiously enough, that interview came out in Collider with Gore
Mhm.
about the film. And then the script has started going around again, which the only person I ever knew that had a copy of this script was Eric Vespi, who used to be with Ain't It Cool News and Rooster Teeth. And he was the only person I knew that ever publicly said, like, I've read this script. And I never thought I would get my hands on it. And I'm really upset because it would have been an awesome movie.
Well, maybe someday.
You never know. It seems
It would be a lot cheaper to make now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and there's not a problem with the ratings because you can put it on a streaming service. You don't have to worry about it not making money because it's rated R.
Yeah. And you could use the what is Stagecraft now from ILM. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. I mean, I think Gore Verbinski's version, he was saying it was like a $250 million movie just because of the sets that they would have to build back then. But
with
now you don't have to build any sets.
And everything.
Yeah, you can do that all with CGI simulation real easy now.
Well, I'm hoping that this conveniently leaked script and this new renewed interest in the property might be a sign of something. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and knock on all the wood I have.
I have to confess, I never beat any of the sequels, but that first game gave me so many nightmares.
It's so good.
I slept terribly for like weeks while I was playing that game, but I had to keep going.
Yeah, the story is just so good. I've bought it. It's the only game I've ever continuously repurchased with every console I have. But anyway, enough about that. I just wanted to share because I thought that was super cool.
I'm very jealous.
Let's get into the news. A new restaurant has arrived at SeaWorld Orlando, and by new, I mean renovated and renamed. But offering some new foods. It's called Altitude Burgers. It used to be Mango Joe's, and it's located nearby to Icebreaker and the Glacier Bar. It was redesigned and rethemed to kind of fit in better with those two locations.
And by fitting in, it means it's got these bright blue and orange Howard Johnson color scheme going on.
Right. That screams ice to me. But you can get burgers, grilled chicken sandwiches, pizza, beers on tap. They don't serve Impossible Burger here anymore.
It's a real shame.
Yeah.
I thought that SeaWorld was making some good strides forward with the vegan options, and that seems like a step back. Of course, they've gone the opposite direction by having this Altitude Burger. Did you see that one on the menu?
Altitude Burger, yes.
Yeah, that one's the $20 top shelf burger, which is a full pound of ground beef, plus bacon, plus cheese, plus onion rings on top. And it's served with a side of not French fries, but fried cheese sticks.
What?
Yes.
I thought you were getting something like
because you haven't. Yes, because the burger is not. It's not a hard tack on a plate by itself enough. It needs cheese sticks on the side, and you know that someone is going to eat that and then immediately go on Icebreaker, and yeah,
and hurl.
Clean up in aisle 3, please.
Oh man, yeah. The only vegetarian option, it seems now, is a truffle veggie pizza, which I like truffle, like mushroomy stuff, but it is kind of a shame that it's a burger restaurant and doesn't have any veg or vegan burger options.
Should be so easy.
Yeah.
You would think.
There are so many good meat subs out there for burgers, especially. And then they also have plenty of dessert, cake, cheesecake, cookies, all that good stuff. There is outdoor seating available both in and out of the shade. So if you have a hankering to fuel up before you go ride Icebreaker once that opens, not sure if that would be a great idea. You can check out Altitude Burgers now.
Yeah,
or at SeaWorld Orlando.
I don't know, a combination of the burgers, those drinks that they have at the Glacier Bar next door, and the new
Oh,
roller
man.
coaster. I really pray for the janitorial staff working that section of the park.
Well, who is going to test it out for us? That's the thing. Can you handle altitude burgers and Glacier Bar before going on Icebreaker?
I am not writing that article.
That's the
Mm-mm.
Icebreaker Challenge. Disney has announced that an exhibition celebrating 100 years of the company is launching in 2023.
This is going to premiere at the Franklin Institute, which is one of my favorite museums growing up. It's in Philadelphia, and it's a children's museum, but it's definitely something that people of any age can enjoy. And I grew up going there, and if they had a Walt Disney exhibit there when I was a kid, I would have lost my mind.
Mm-hmm. It sounds very interesting, the fact that they will have all sorts of memorabilia, art, costumes, props, Imagineering stuff from across the company's history on display across 1,500 feet of exhibition space. I'm kind of sad that it's not traveling.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, maybe as the pandemic eases and people are heading back into museums, maybe if this is successful, it could go somewhere else down the road. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I got family in Philly, so this is a good excuse to take a trip up and visit.
Hey, there you go. There will also be a second staging outside of the US for the rest of the globe, but this exhibition is set to debut in February of 2023. So, very excited. And if you get to go, you'll have to tell us all about it because I'll be super jealous. A bit of news from my neck of the woods. In case you haven't been on the internet, Governor Greg Abbott in Texas lifted the mask mandate statewide, and the occupancy limits for businesses as of the 10th. So he announced that they will be lifting. They don't lift until the 10th, but as of the 10th, businesses are no longer required to ask that you wear masks or have their employees wear masks, and they can open their businesses at 100% capacity. Granted, at least in Austin, most businesses are keeping their capacities limited and masks are required. That's something that the governor said that businesses could do, that they, at their discretion, they could still enforce these rules. But the interesting thing was how the theme parks would respond. And we have 3 major parks here in the state, and I also included Schlitterbahn because it's supposed to open in May. Six Flags Over Texas and Fiesta Texas will both still require masks and still be using the Six Flags reservation system.
In Texas, that would make me feel better about going to those parks for sure.
Oh, yeah. And SeaWorld San Antonio hasn't posted anything specifically yet. Both Six Flags parks had a section on their website that is like, here's what's happening, here's how we're responding to it. But the SeaWorld rules and guidelines for visiting the park are still the same. So I would assume no news is good news on that front.
I know this has been big news, nationwide, and it's been very controversial in Texas. Ironically, here in Florida, which we've had probably even worse, case numbers than you, we've never had a statewide mandate, as far as I know. Everything's always been county by county, city by city. So, just like here with Disney and Universal. The theme parks definitely they set the maximum bar, and they don't want anyone to outflank them on safety or making guests feel secure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not unexpected, but it's good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like we're going to start seeing more of these kinds of announcements as we get closer and closer to an eventual herd immunity. I know the Biden administration is aiming for all eligible adults to be vaccinated by the end of the summer.
Hmm.
So we could start to see parks saying we're going to make everyone wear masks whether or not they're vaccinated until this is over in a year or less. Or they could say no more masks, come cough on everyone. No, they won't. But
I expect the big players, especially the ones that are publicly traded companies, to keep having those mask restrictions until there's widespread, scientific acknowledgement that we're in the clear.
agreed.
They don't want to almost get us to the finish line and then be responsible for some sort of outbreak,
Yeah.
because that would be the worst PR possible.
Yeah. Could you imagine being the theme park that caused a giant COVID-19
So, yeah,
outbreak? That would
yeah.
be the worst. A stain that could never come out. Over at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort, we got to look at the new Moana inspired room renovations. Now, you tell me what you think about these before I tell you what I think about these.
Um, I'm not one of the people who desperately needs every room to be themed to a character, but the poly rooms were looking really kind of worn for the amount of money people were paying for them.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you don't focus on the Moana stuff, it's a nice looking room. I really
Yeah.
like the way they've gone away from and instead have this tile that looks like wood. They've got this kind of Polynesian inspired treatment on the walls. The lighting is much better. The soft goods look clean and don't look like giant dust catchers anymore. It looks like, I still don't know if it's a, $400 a night hotel room, though the bathroom now comes pretty close to, living up to the room rates. Um, but obviously you're always going to be paying first for location when you're staying at the Poly. But I think this was long overdue, and I think they were a lot more subtle with the Moana stuff than they could have been. It's not art of animation.
Yeah. That's kind of how to me, it feels like a Hilton Garden Inn in Waikiki with Moana thrown
Yes.
everywhere. And I really love like the Polynesian pop aesthetic that the Polynesian kind of goes for, kind of doesn't.
Hmm.
I wish that they would have leaned harder into that instead of literally having Moana wallpaper
Right.
and Hey Hey painted over by the coffee machine.
He's kind of cute though.
He is cute,
I
and if he were to go anywhere, it would be near the caffeine for sure. But
my personal preference would have been if they had gone retro and really done like a 70s throwback, but made it, maybe a little cleaner and bright and not just browns and oranges.
yeah,
Because honestly, when you look at some of the photos of what the Poly really looked like through the 70s and the 80s, no one would want to stay there now. Like very few people. It's pretty rough
it
by
was yeah.
today's standards.
When these
Um,
photos came out, I went and looked up all the old photos of like the 70s, the 80s, the 90s of what like the rooms looked like, and the bedding
mhm,
was gross.
yeah.
So I was like, oh well, maybe it looked cooler before, and it really didn't. And this looks nice, but
Mm.
it looks like a regular old hotel and not a Disney hotel, unless you think that that means characters on things. Um, yeah, I don't know. I
It
mean,
it it could have been it could have been better, but it could have been a lot worse.
oh,
That's my feeling.
oh yeah. A nice little surprise for you Epcot fans out there. This past week, 6 of the original park icons were raised as flags out in the park's entrance plaza.
This was such a nice treat walking into Epcot for the opening of the Flower and Garden Festival, but more especially exiting at night. The entry plaza, I know there's a lot of different parts to the Epcot makeover that have been controversial, But I don't know anyone who doesn't like what they've done with the entry plaza.
It's
It's clean, it's open, the sight lines are good, it's welcoming, it's retro without not just being pandering fan service, um, and the lighting at night with that color changing strip all along the turnstile. It's really stunning seeing it in person. It puts a great kind of cap on the day walking out and seeing the fountain. And I think once the new lighting effects on Spaceship Earth that are coming up for the anniversary are done, it's going to be one of the prettiest park entrances in Orlando.
Oh, yeah. And I think if this is what we're in for, just at the entrance, I think the rest of the park could really surprise us as far as its transformation. I mean, we still have to get Dreamers Point and all of the redesigned neighborhoods out of the way.
Hmm.
But this looks really nice. Music notwithstanding, I haven't listened to it yet, but that seemed to be the one thing everyone was up in arms about this past week was that they changed the loop.
So yeah, the loop right inside the park entrance is new. I didn't personally recognize any of the music I heard. It was orchestral. It was very uplifting and slightly generic. I didn't recognize any classic Epcot tunes, but outside the ticket booths, I did notice some old Epcot music still playing out there. So, hopefully you'll still be able to hear, some of those old tunes somewhere around the park. But I think they're trying to make a statement with this entrance that it's, looking forward and not just looking back.
Then just give us new orchestrations of the old stuff. Come on. That music is just classic, but at the same time, I just remember working at the pin outpost thing behind Spaceship Earth for
Hmm.
standing outside all day. But I want
Maybe
to.
it's just burned into your brain.
It
It's like
is.
Pavlovian.
I close my eyes and I see the Fountain of Nations just going off, staring off into the distance. Here is one of the contenders for this week's main attraction, but then a million other things happened. Um, Recently, the Dr. Seuss Enterprises announced that they were stopping publication of 6 books due to insensitive and racist imagery. And a couple of them have references in Seuss Landing over at Universal's Islands of Adventure in Orlando.
Yeah. Before we start getting complaints
Yes.
or comments, we should make a few things clear. One, the books are not being banned. No one is running into people's houses and stealing them and burning them or taking them out of libraries or schools. This is the Dr. Seuss's family, Dr. Seuss's estate. The people who own the rights are making this choice that they're not going to sell this anymore, and Universal is going along by taking it out of their stores. But it doesn't mean that Dr. Seuss area is being torn out tomorrow, or
Yes.
that Dr. Seuss has been canceled by Universal or anything, and any kind of clickbait headline like that.
Yeah.
It's they've Universal has said they're evaluating it, but if you ask Universal, they'll say they are constantly evaluating all of their guest offerings, for improvements. Everything's always being evaluated. So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean any immediate changes. Should also, I think, say, as someone who I don't think I own all 6 of these books, but I own most of them, and I've read them all during my life. There are definitely illustrations and certain phrases in there that, by today's standards, and also by the standards of 50 years ago too, are clearly like racist or culturally insensitive at best. But none of those particular images or phrases are directly referenced or incorporated in the park, as far as I know. I've looked, the big one is If I Ran the Zoo, which is one of the books that isn't being sold anymore. And there's a walkthrough playground area themed around that. But, none of the cultural stereotypes about Chinese or African people that are in the book are in the walkthrough. It's strictly the fantasy animals that are there. So I'm not sure. There could be some little sign or thing painted somewhere that could be easily removed. And I'm sure this is there. This is a lot of this is closed right now anyway. The If I Ran the Zoo is part of the things that's closed for COVID. So I'm sure if and when it reopens, anything that was in there will be scrubbed clean. But I don't expect Cat in the Hat or any of it to be bulldozed anytime soon.
Same. We had our friend Theron go through and take a bunch of pictures of references that he could find in the park, and it's namely just names. There's a Mulberry Street sign, a store. There's a copy of If I Ran the Zoo on Sneech Beach, the If I Ran the Zoo sign, and walkthrough area. But other than that, there aren't really any references to any of the other books. They've already pulled all the copies of the books that are no longer being published from the shelves of the merchandise shops in the land. And I feel like that's going to be the extent of it for a while. Because I was thinking about this in relation to Splash Mountain and Song of the South. How long has Song of the South been inaccessible, and yet Splash Mountain exists still?
Not only exists, but it was kind of built after Song of the South had its final theatrical release.
Yeah.
I mean, Disney had kind of already said, "Oh, we're not going to publicize this movie anymore," and yet went ahead and built a ride. So it's taken like a generation for Disney to get around to fixing Song of the South. And I think arguably that's probably a lot more egregious than anything that is inside Universal's park in the Seuss Landing area.
Yeah. But do not be worried about this land going away. Universal said that guests can plan on continuing to be able to enjoy their favorite experiences at Seuss Landing. So if you are holding out hope for some new land or something to take over, I hate to rain on your parade, but it's not going away anytime soon.
Unless, of course, your favorite experience was eating at Circus McGurkus, which I think is, it's spring break. It's probably back open for spring break, but it's been closed intermittently, and the dipping dots that they had there are now permanently gone. So if eating dipping dots in Seuss Landing was your favorite Dr. Seuss experience, you're out of luck.
Tragic. Another exciting thing, Universal Studios Hollywood is opening up the park to guests finally for an event called Taste of Universal. It's following the trend. I feel like Disneyland and Universal Studios Hollywood are finally catching up to Knott's Berry Farm. And
absolutely, 100%. It took you guys long enough, but welcome to the club.
So this event starts on Friday, March the 12th, and will take place within select themed lands on weekends from Friday to Sunday, noon to 7 p.m. And guests will be able to stroll through those select areas of the park, not get to ride any rides though, but get to enjoy various culinary options and photo ops as well. Obviously,
this is strikingly similar to the Touch of Disney event that California Adventure is doing. And they kind of announced this just when Disney was releasing tickets for their event, which, knowing Universal was very deliberate. And in terms of pricing, if you want to compare them head to head, I got to say that Universal is only at $44 for this versus, was it $75?
Yes.
For Disney's event? And they are giving discounts to annual pass holders because they still have annual pass holders. So that's a plus.
Mm-hmm.
And and that admission includes not just like a set dollar amount gift card, but I think it includes 5 samples.
And you
Um,
can purchase additional.
and yes, exactly. So I think you're probably going to get more for your money out of Universal's offerings, assuming you like butterbeer. You
Ooh,
know,
yeah.
if those count, if butterbeer counts as a sample, then you can definitely come out ahead with that.
I believe it does. I mean, it was listed in
Yep.
all of their various offerings. So you can head over to, during the event, Springfield, USA, Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the Minion Cafe, which is a new dining experience adjacent to Despicable Me Minion Mayhem over there. Um, Hollywood and Dine section with Cochina Mexicana, Hollywood and Dine, and City Snack Shop in City Walk. Um,
And I think one of the cool things about this is, obviously these theme park events are about shopping,
yeah.
since that's one thing that they can let people do. And guests at this are going to be the first to get to shop in the new Secret Life of Pets exit gift shop. The ride was all set to open when everything shut down, and they still can't open the ride, but they can open the gift store.
Those poor pets.
I know they've been trapped in there for
There for
months.
so long.
Whole year, no one's fed them treats. It's tragic.
Tragic. But that's really neat. I can't wait to see what the inside of it looks like. Just anything about that ride. I feel like we got pictures right before the pandemic closed everything, and I haven't seen much of it since.
Yeah, there are a bunch of brand new, dark rides in California that are like basically were all supposed to open last year and have just sort of sitting in limbo. It's going to be amazing when people finally get to ride them.
Right? This event also will offer physically distanced photo ops with characters, just like Disneyland will, for a good chunk less. So if you are a big fan of Universal and Kung Fu Panda and Hello Kitty and the Minions and everyone else, give it a shot because it sounds like a great value for your money.
Yeah. Relatively speaking, I mean, we're still spending, $45 on a handful of snacks, But
to go into a park with no rides. Yeah.
well, but you got to think, I can't judge. I'm in Florida. I've been going to theme parks for months. If you're in Southern California and you have not had any kind of entertainment for a whole year now, and you have been dying to go to a theme, if I lived there, I would happily pay $45 to go to a theme park and drink a butterbeer. I would do that in a second.
One of these days, I will get back to one. This. This next one, I was not expecting this. I had thought that this project was all but dead. But
I'm not dead yet. I feel happy. I think I'll go for a walk. For you Monty Python fans.
I was thinking of the flesh wound. That original pause in construction was just a flesh wound. Construction will resume on Universal's Epic Universe over at Universal Orlando Resort. Surprise of the century. Hot rumors were saying that this was basically dead in the water because of the pandemic, and surprise, surprise, it's not.
Construction never 100% stopped. There was still infrastructure work going on. There were still this partnership with the state to build an extension of Kirkman Road, and that kind of stuff was still in progress. I always had faith. I know Comcast is definitely in it for the long haul compared to the owners who were around the first time that Universal bought land in this area and then ended up selling it off back around 9/11. I knew they were going to stick it out, but I am impressed. I didn't think that they would be making this announcement so quickly. I figured that they would, slowly ramp up sometime later this year or next year. But for them to make this kind of bold announcement, basically showing their cards that they believe that the recovery is happening and that they want to be ready for it. They didn't set an official reopening date, or sorry, not reopening, a grand opening date. But the city officials have sort of leaked that they're looking at early 2025, which is, it's putting us a year and a half probably behind the original schedule, but that's not bad.
No, and they were able to pause construction and then resume it, or at least announce that they were resuming in less than a year, in a very intense and devastating year for the industry, which is unheard of.
Now, the other side of it is saying you're going to resume construction is one thing, but there were a lot of people who are still working on the project who got laid off. In creative, they had a lot of furloughs, and a lot of those people have found new jobs now, or working on new projects, or starting their own businesses. So it'll be a great opportunity for people who are coming up in the theme design business, because while I'm sure a lot of the designs were done, I'm sure they're also going to be rethinking some of them, or there's still tweaking that's going to have to be done. There's going to be a lot of people having to be hired back to do that. Yeah, if you're in the entertainment design business, I would polish up your resume and be sending it to Universal Creative.
Yeah, get your portfolio looking
absolutely
nice and pretty.
Absolutely.
Very excited for this. I was surprised, but the fact that, and this might be just me projecting, but the fact that they used the original concept art for the announcement image when they sent this out officially made me hopeful, like, oh good, they're not going to Toy Story land us, maybe.
Well, and we have confirmation that Super Nintendo World will be part of the project still, and I would pretty much bet that we'll get what they have in Japan plus something extra. We'll probably get the biggest version of Super Nintendo World that'll be built, and there's still there's a lot of murkiness still in that concept art, especially what's blocked out by that big burst of fireworks. I would say that that's the section of the park, especially depending on real world events with the creator, that might change most likely.
Good eye. I remember when this first came out, I did like a deep dive and zoomed in really far on those little pixels to try to figure out everything. It's funny you think that. Now I'm going to be thinking about that. And another surprise, Universal was just like, here you go.
On a roll.
With the headlines this week. Halloween Horror Nights is back for 2021. They're redoing the 30th, so last year didn't happen.
Reset button.
This event will run on select nights from September 3rd through October 31st, and the marquee house that they've announced first is Beetlejuice, as many had hoped and expected.
All right, you said it once.
I won't say it anymore.
You won't say what?
Nothing.
Okay.
If you remember last year, as a Halloween treat, they opened up this house that was originally planned for last year's event, and it seemed very cool, but I can't wait to see what they might be able to do without a bunch of COVID restrictions.
Well, first of all, this is the earliest I can remember having an announcement with both the dates and a house. I mean, we kind of knew that Beetlejuice was going to be back this year. The opening last year was pretty much a contractual obligation so that he could come back. But it's kind of crazy. Usually we see these announcements come the end of March, beginning of April at the earliest. So I guess they really want people to start booking those hotel rooms now.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if or what Stay and Scream will look like if that
Mm.
happens.
Um, yeah, I think this shows that they are confident enough in the vaccine rollout that they think that they can probably have, minimal capacity restrictions, because you can't do a full blown, Halloween Horror Nights 30th anniversary celebration with 25 or 33% capacity and plexiglass everywhere. If they are starting to advertise this hard this early, that says to me they think that they're going to be able to do the kind of numbers that they normally do. But I'm sure there's still going to have to be some kind of accommodations for social distancing. It's they didn't put a face mask on. No, I won't do it. On BJ in the video. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they won't have the barriers in the haunted houses. I still think that they should make guests wear face masks,
Yeah.
but I would like to see the performers not have to.
Right. Agreed. This year's event, according to the website, will have 10 haunted houses, 5 scare zones, and 1 live entertainment offering. And it's anyone's guess as to what that could be.
I can guess that it won't be Academy of Villains.
Yeah, because it won't be Academy of Villains. Could is Bill and Ted even a thing, or is that just going to be a conspiracy?
Well, as far as I know, the former Bill and Ted writer is still on the payroll. But I would think that the licensing price would have gone up now that they had a reasonably successful movie. Maybe it's time for them to come up with something totally new. We'll see.
I would love to see Beetlejuice's Graveyard Review thing come back. That would be cool.
That would be great. I would love to see some sort of live, even if it's just live music on the Music Plaza stage, especially since that plaza area is always full of people waiting to see a haunted house. They might as well get some entertainment while they're there instead of just the same 6-minute clip of videos that just runs on an infinite loop.
True. Or Rocky Horror Picture Show. I was so upset when I found out that they used to do that at Horror Nights, and then they stopped right before I moved to Orlando. I was tragically upset.
So in my former life, I started the Orlando cast of Rocky Horror. It's called The Rich Weirdos, and we used to do it for over a decade at the Cineplex at Universal, and so I remember feeling a little competitive when they started doing the Rocky Horror inside the park. But actually, it kind of brought a new generation of people who had not experienced the movie before, became fans through the show at Universal. I kind of miss it. Had a great cast.
Oh, well, we'll see what happens. I'm very interested to see what that one entertainment offering will be.
Yeah.
But
I don't think the Fountain Show would count as live entertainment, would it?
I hope not. I hope they actually give us something.
I do love that Lagoon Show. I really that was one of my favorite parts of that year of Halloween Horror Nights, and I'd love to see a new one.
Yes, I'm sure we will have a full speculative episode in the future once the rumors start ramping up, but very excited to see this on the horizon. And in our last bit of news, we have to talk about WandaVision. If you have not watched any of WandaVision or the series finale, yes, I said series finale, please go away for the next 15 minutes so we can talk about it. That's your warning. All right. Seth.
Yes. I have some kind of complicated feelings, so I want to hear what you say first, so I do not pollute the room with my aura.
I I know I had my theories, but I wanted to approach this without any kind of expectation because I knew that if I went in expecting something, I would be disappointed. The only thing that I really did not want was I didn't want them to utilize Wanda's grief as a tool to turn her into a villain. That was like my number one. If that happens, I'll be really upset. And I feel like they actually kind of did right by her in a way. Um, they were able to take her grief and instead of just making her be like, well, no more mutants except, with everything else and let her grief kind of destroy her internally, she just kind of was like, I'm sorry. I need to move on. She lets Vision go. She lets the kids go for now. And moves on, accepting her new identity as Scarlet Witch and trying to figure it out. And it felt really nice to have a woman get some kind of agency in her story after the Rise of Skywalker, which I'll be bitter about for the rest of eternity. But that's how I felt about it.
Um, so I feel like it's so hard to evaluate this on a episode by episode basis that you kind of got to look at the whole arc of the show. But I kind of felt like a lot of people were complaining throughout it was too slow, there wasn't enough action, it wasn't superhero-y enough. And I feel like all the action that they wanted to see throughout the previous 8 episodes all got crammed into the last one. And I got to be honest, the one thing that I dislike about Marvel Cinematic Universe is that every single movie, no matter how creative the first 2 acts are, the third act always ends in people throwing fireballs at each other or punching each other through buildings. And usually while shouting some dialogue at each other, but it doesn't matter. It's all about the special effects. And I was hoping that they would break through that they had broken through so many other kind of stereotypes and cliches of superhero fiction with this show, and I was hoping that they would shatter that one too with the finale. And instead, I got a lot of people punching each other. And the moments that were personal and really tied to the characters' emotional motivation, like when Wanda invades Agnes's memories and goes back to the Salem witch trials, that was really effective. But when it's just them flying around in the sky and throwing fireballs, I got bored. I didn't want that to happen, which is a shame because that wasn't the whole episode. There was a lot of other good stuff in there. But if nothing else, like if they were going to have a big battle of magic, I would have liked it to been drawing from the different time periods and realities that we'd seen previously on the show and make, the 50s and the 90s and the 60s all collide with their big blowout battle at the end, instead of it just being I'm throwing red and you're throwing purple. It didn't seem to live up to the imagination and the emotional vulnerability that the rest of the show was about.
Yeah. I will say that it made me cry. I wasn't expecting to cry. I was expecting to be sad. But Wanda's farewell to her created Vision really tore me up. We've gone through such a character heavy journey with the both of them that we haven't really gotten before in the MCU canon. And you see how hard she tries to fight against this, maybe I am the villain-esque stereotype that she's trying to fit into, and giving up the one thing that she cares about the most, her family, in order to save the lives of other people. It felt really, I don't know, different in a comparison to other Marvel stuff. Yeah, it was just really heavy for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And it was handled really well. It was the production value is incredible. That last episode did not look like a TV show. It
Mm-mm.
was shot, it was produced, it was the CGI, it was all movie quality. My critique, I'm criticizing it only because it is so much better than pretty much anything else out there,
Yeah,
and that I wanted its finale to live up, I guess, to what it had built up in my brain. And I
yeah.
think that's a problem with a lot of fans. And I think there are a lot of things in the show, most specifically the casting of Pietro,
Oh,
that
yeah.
are done just deliberately to kind of toy with fans' expectations and like just there to like make people have elaborate headcanon theories that then get kind of dismissed. Um, but you know, ultimately it was about grief and loss, and there aren't a lot of TV shows, period, that deal with that, much less ones with people in tights throwing fireballs at each other.
Exactly. Um, I was really disappointed by the Pietro Evan Peters reveal just being a dirty joke. Um, that was a bummer. Um, but the end credit scenes, can we talk about those?
Absolutely.
There
And
are
if you don't watch the credits, you're not a Marvel fan. I don't know what
right.
to say. I
They've
like
It's been 10 years. You should know to stay through to the very end of the credits. The first mid credit scene shows Monica in a theater talking to a sword agent who reveals herself to be a Skrull and a friend of her mother, Maria. And she says, I heard you were grounded. He'd like to meet with you. And we can all assume that he is Nick Fury. And then she goes, "Where?" And then the small agent points straight up. And if you remember from Far From Home, the end credit scene of that film showed Nick Fury in space
Mhm.
aboard a sword headquarters spaceship of sorts. So maybe we could see Monica in Secret Wars, that TV show coming along the way.
And if you want to get really like fanboy, the second Spider-Man film takes place shortly after WandaVision, and there's a shot in it where there's a hexagon on a computer screen. So it indicated that they knew about this all along, and that Nick Fury was aware of what was going on during WandaVision the whole time. Or they just like hexagons, and it's a nice piece of production design.
I mean, there are hexagons everywhere. If you think about Guardians of the Galaxy, when they're traveling in between warp points, the warp points are
It's
hexagons as well.
it's just a nice shape, folks.
Yeah, but very excited about that. I love what they're kind of building up for Monica. I can't wait to see what superhero version of herself she turns into, because she seems so cool and tough, and I can't wait for that. In the post-credit scene, we see Wanda in a mountainy setting in a cabin. Made me think of One Decor Mountain when I was researching when she like went to go isolate herself. And then she's like sitting in some loungewear having a cup of coffee. She walks inside of her cabin, and then we see that her astral form is floating in the air, held up by her chaos magic, studying the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and
Spooky.
all of the fans of Agents of Shield cried out in agony because their canon was taken away from them. Uh, and then
That
what?
yeah, Agents of Shield is just an alternate reality. Pay no
Yeah,
attention to that multiverse.
multiverse. But one interesting thing that happened in this scene, other than you hear Billy and Tommy screaming, "Mom, help us!" Blah, 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 the Doctor Strange theme plays underneath this scene.
hmm And this is definitely a lead-in to Multiverse of Madness. Also, Agatha had a a line where she says that the Scarlet Witch is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme.
Hmm.
Kind of, so, are they going to be on the same side, or is she and Doctor Strange going to be antagonists in the upcoming film?
That's a great question, because now we can assume that she's trying to figure out how to save her children, because they were real, they were born, so they have to be in some alternate universe timeline realm thing. And she's using this book to figure out how to get them back, perhaps. And maybe she delves too deeply into the dark arts, and Doctor Strange is like, no, you can't do that. And then she's like, but I want my children. And then chaos ensues.
Tell you, they're going to turn her into Dark Willow eventually.
I just want her to be okay, man. Come on. And then we have, before we stop, we have to talk about White Vision. That whole sequence with the ship of Theseus was very memeable and also really cool.
It kind of reminded me of an old Star Trek episode where, Kirk will use logic to talk the computer into blowing itself up instead of killing everyone.
Mm-hmm. So now I guess if you missed this part, White Vision was created by Sword using chaos magic from a missile that was shot out of the Hex by Wanda, and the Vision's leftover parts. And he is devoid of all personality, memory, and he encounters Wanda's Vision in the Hex, and they kind of fight with each other, and he's like, my directive is to destroy the Vision. And then Vision passes along his memories and experiences into White Vision's little arc reactor soul stone thingy in his forehead. And then you kind of see like a flash forward of Vision's greatest hits throughout the MCU. and then he comes back, and then his eyes change from the computerized look to Vision's blue eyes. Then he goes, I am Vision, and just dips.
And where will he show up next? Who knows?
Who knows? I was doing some reading. In the comics, the White Vision loses his memory. He and Wanda get a divorce. But then I think he regains his memories or something, and they get back together. But this, I know he definitely loses his memory and personality, and they split. So this is kind of adapting that in a way. I think they'll definitely see each other again, but their relationship will not be the same. It would be interesting if the kids came back, and then New Vision is like, who are these children?
Right.
Yeah.
He wasn't around for them.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well,
but,
we'll just have to wait and see where they show up next.
Yes. We have The Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up very, very soon. But I hate to say it, I'm already expecting to like it less than I like WandaVision.
I mean, I don't expect it to be as emotionally complicated.
Yeah.
I expect it to be more of an action thriller and less of a psychological soap opera.
Right.
So,
I'm sure it'll be great.
It'll look good. No matter what, it will look good.
Sure. Yeah. Anything Marvel, please. I need it. And for this week's main attraction, surprise of the century, even more so than Epic Universe coming back, we have a possible path to reopening for California theme parks.
Yeah, I was not expecting to have this come so quickly. I don't think that the parks were either, because they wouldn't have been selling tickets
right
to these tasting events if they knew they could open. But there's a lot of caveats. First being really restricted capacity. it's anywhere from 15 to 25%, depending on what tier they're in. But more importantly, it looks like they're only going to be selling tickets to people who live in the state of California.
Yes. According to the OC Register, the California residents only rule was mentioned there, but I've seen other people say that it's not confirmed. So the jury is out on that one.
Yeah.
But that's got to be awkward for the people who just spent 6 hours in a virtual queue for those Touch of Disney tickets that don't live in California.
Absolutely. And I don't believe any notification was given when people were purchasing those tickets about having to be, provide a zip code or anything like that.
Right.
So either this is some sort of misunderstanding and that theme parks will be able to allow out-of-state guests in, or there's going to be some refunds. But either way, it's definitely it's going to be hard to get into Disneyland for sure.
For a while.
For quite a while. This is why they got rid of all those annual passes, because the annual pass holders alone would have completely overwhelmed the park's capacity. No details obviously have been announced, but look for something like the Park Pass reservation system that they have in Florida to be used, and it'll be even harder to get one of those passes than it is in Florida. I know right now this is spring break, and pretty much every Walt Disney World theme park is booked out with all the park passes taken for this week coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think almost every week is going to be like that when this comes to Disneyland.
Yeah. So as of this new announcement, the parks will be able to reopen as of April 1st if they fall into the correct tier coding. I believe Orange County is still in purple, which is not allowed to reopen. But if they can get lower to the red tier, they can open at 15% capacity, which is not a lot, but it's still open.
It's now I'm assuming 15% capacity is of their maximum capacity. And you got to remember that, like Disneyland parks, maximum capacity is somewhere between probably 90 to 100,000 people, maybe a hair more. But it only ever reaches that, on 1 or 2 days a year. Your average capacity for a park is probably close to half of your maximum capacity. Still, if they're saying 15% capacity is maybe 15,000 people, that's tiny. That's a very, very small crowd in Disneyland. It would be very nice to be one of the people in Disneyland on a 15% capacity day.
Yeah. But we'll have to see. None of the parks except for Six Flags Magic Mountain have made an announcement as to an opening date. But Six Flags made that announcement a couple of weeks ago. And everyone was kind of like, sure, Six Flags. But now
maybe they knew something the rest of us didn't.
I'm starting to wonder if that was the case. Disneyland's president, Ken Potrock, said that they can't wait to welcome guests back and look forward to sharing an opening date soon. So I assume once they figure out what they're going to do with the Touch of Disney situation, we will get an opening date of some kind, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the capacity limit is different if they are operating as a theme park versus just operating as shopping and dining. So perhaps, Touch of Disney could go on over at California Adventure while Disneyland reopens as a theme park. At this point, I am sure that they are furiously, putting every possible scenario on a whiteboard and trying to figure out which one's going to make them the most money.
Right, because they don't want to have to let those people who are not in-state residents cancel their tickets, cancel their hotel bookings, cancel their flights, all that stuff, because that's money going down the drain that they could put in their pocket. But very exciting to see this. It certainly made me hopeful for the future.
Yep.
That we get to some kind of normal as far as the industry.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and unlike Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, it is not an oncoming train sending us to hell.
Guilty. But man, I miss Disneyland.
Oh, I do too. I can't. I was supposed to go shortly after everything shut down, and
dang,
I can't wait to be back.
I just want to see Avengers Campus. I want to see that Spider-Man animatronic so I can get freaked out that it looks too real and then eat all of the giant and very tiny food at the Ant-Man themed kitchen.
Absolutely. I want to go.
Exactly.
I went and rode Ninjago at Legoland to practice.
Very
it's pretty
good.
much the same thing, and I was terrible. So
you got to stay on top of your game. And normally, each week we would share some listener thank yous for those who subscribe to Club and VIP tiers of the Attractions Magazine subscription system, but we don't have any this week.
For shame. Someone out there, please, we need a name to announce next week. Or two.
Yeah, come on. But in case you didn't know, Attractions has a 4-tier subscription service. And if you choose Club or VIP, you get your name shouted out the week after you subscribe here on the podcast. So please give us some names to do next week. I'll be sad if you don't. Our spring issue is also coming very soon. So keep an eye out for that. And then if you like to read your magazines digitally, i.e. on an iPad or on your phone, you can check out our digital subscription option and save some trees while you're at it. And
go ahead. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you go.
No, you.
No, you.
I was just going to say that while you're being digital, you might as well head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review, because that helps the podcasts circulate. It helps the algorithm get us in front of more people and brings more people to listen to the podcast with us.
Yeah, come on.
Like you're doing right now.
Exactly. Or watching, depending on if you're here for the live show. Maybe then we'll have some names to share. Do it. And Seth, if you would, tell the folks at home where they can find you on the interwebs.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @skubersky or at the UG Series, and you can pick up a copy of the new Unofficial Guide to Universal Orlando 2021 at theunofficialguides.com.
And you can find me at Brittani Tuttle. That's BRITTANITUTTLE. Yes, it's spelled funny on Twitter and Instagram, as well as every day at attractionsmagazine.com, Attractions on Twitter, Attractions Magazine on Instagram, and youtube.com/attractionsmagazine, where you've been hanging out with us for the live show. And until next week, I hope you guys stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, and have fun. We'll see you next time.
Bye.